Hey guys, my name's Pocket and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about mythic items. Hopefully after this video you're really going to understand what mythic items are, how they differ from other items, how they can be utilized, and also have a good knowledge of the specific items. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment or you can hop into my Twitch stream. I stream every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you out. Mythic items are a brand new type of item and they're quite unique compared to the items that you will be familiar with from League of Legends previous to Season 11. The two key things that set apart mythic items from other normal items, which are now being called legendary items, is that mythic items are unique. That is to say that you can only build one mythic item. If you build a mythic item, you cannot build any other mythic item, unless of course you sell that mythic item. These items also have a mythic passive. There are a few exceptions to how this works, but generally speaking, the mythic passive will grant a certain number of stats per legendary item owned. Today, we're going to be focusing specifically on the group of mythic items that are aimed at being used in the support role. If you're interested in items for other roles, we're going to have videos coming out on that shortly, so make sure you hit subscribe if you want to catch them. All of these items are priced lower at 2,700 gold, which is much cheaper than the other mythic items, and they have clear benefits to those on a support's gold income and who is trying to achieve the kind of things that a support might be trying to achieve. This group is made up of 4 items, 2 of which you will probably be familiar with, and 2 of which are completely new to League. The first one that we're going to talk about is Locket of the Iron Solari. Now, Locket of the Iron Solari has been in League for a very long time, but now that it's been turned into a mythic item, it's undergone a few changes. Firstly, to its base stats, it now gives you 200 health, 30 armor, and 30 magic resist. So it appears that they're toning down the base resists to give you a little bit of health. Overall, I think this is relatively similar in power, but it now also gives you 20 ability haste. This is really good, especially now that ability haste has replaced cooldown reduction and ability haste is uncapped. Any ability haste is always good. The active ability of Locket of the Iron Solari is pretty much exactly the same as it used to be. You grant nearby allies a 250 to 420 HP shield that decays over 2.5 seconds, and it has a 90-second cooldown. The mythic passive for this item actually works in conjunction with a secondary passive that it holds. Its secondary passive is Consecrate, and it grants nearby allied champions 5 armor and 5 magic resist. And its mythic passive increases this armor and magic resist that you grant to nearby allies by 2 armor and 2 magic resist per legendary item. Now, overall, I think this item is going to work pretty much exactly the same, but it's clearly aimed at tanks now. I won't expect to see this on enchanters much because of the items that we're going to talk about next, and that's probably why they've added in a little bit of health and a little bit of that extra resist to your allies as well. The second item that we're going to talk about is Moonstone Renewer. Now, this is an item that I believe is probably aimed at replacing a Fiend's Unholy Grail, which was removed from the normal item section with this update. It's very clearly aimed at AP enchanters, just like Grail, and I feel like it'll work in a similar way. But first, let's start off with its base stats. Moonstone Renewer gives 40 ability power, 200 health, 20 ability haste, and 100% base mana regen. This is all fairly typical kind of stats that you'll want to see on an AP enchanter, but we'll have to see how it balances out exactly. The passive ability though for this item is what really sets it apart. When affecting champions with attacks or abilities in combat, you restore between 30 and 60 health to the most wounded nearby ally. The amount of health that you restore between 30 and 60 depends on your ally's level. Now, this doesn't seem like a lot because, well, it isn't. However, this ability only has a 2-second cooldown. This means that every 2 seconds in combat, when you affect a champion with an attack or an ability, so this could be an enemy champion that you target an ability at, or an allied champion that you heal or shield, you're going to heal somebody nearby, and it's always going to focus on the lowest health ally that's around you. It also has a second passive that increases the effect of this healing by 37.5% for each second spent in combat to a maximum of 150%. This means that if your ally is level 18, you can heal them up to 150 HP every 2 seconds, and that's not even including the fact that you will be buying items that give you bonus heal and shield power, which will further add to this. Frankly, I think that this could be quite powerful. I'm not exactly sure how it's balanced out. The major drawbacks that I see though are that you can no longer target who to add this healing to, unlike with a Fiend's Unholy Grail, where the healing would actively go to the person that you are using the ability on. With this, it will simply auto target the most wounded nearby ally. And if you have champions that love being low HP, maybe a Set or a Red Cane, those kind of brawler types, or even just full tanks that might have 80% of their health missing, but they still have more health than you, well then this is going to heal them instead of your ADC, who might actually need it more. And finally, the Mythic passive for this item grants all other legendary items 5 ability haste. Once again, I think this is aimed at enchanters. It's going to be great because almost all enchanters really do love ability haste. The third item that we're going to talk about is Imperial Mandate. Imperial Mandate is a brand new item and it gives 40 ability power, 200 health, 20 ability haste, and 100% base mana regen. Those of you who have been paying close attention will realize that that is the exact same base stats as the Moonstone Renewer, and I think that it is clear that this is aimed at not only AP supports, such as the AP mid laners that you might be bringing into the bot lane like Lux or Brand or Zyra, but Riot also probably want this to be an alternative buy for enchanters to use as a kind of weird and niche build path. Of course, having exactly the same stats means that it's got quite a different passive in order to separate it from the Moonstone Renewer that we talked about earlier. This passive deals bonus magic damage every time you slow or immobilize an enemy champion. When this magic damage is dealt to them, they are marked for 4 seconds. If any ally champion damages a marked enemy in those 4 seconds, they will also deal a bonus magic damage and grant you both 20% movement speed for 2 seconds. This passive has just a 6-second cooldown per enemy champion. I think this is going to be really strong on certain champions that scale with AP and have easy to hit slows or immobilizations. This could include people like Zyra, Nico, or Lux, but it could also include people like Soraka, Nami, or Lulu. Obviously Soraka's Q is not particularly hard to hit and that applies a slow, so it would proc this passive. And the amount of damage is actually quite significant. It's 60 to 100 damage based on your level, but then it's also 60 to 100 damage when the mark detonates, and that's based on your ally's level. And seeing as supports tend to have the lowest level in the game, this means that it's even more when they detonate this mark. I'll be very interested to see the kind of champions that end up building this, but I think it's going to be actually quite varied and quite strong indeed. Finally, the Mythic passive for this item grants all other legendary items 15 ability power. Once again, I think this is really strong. On Moonstone Renewer, we see just 5 ability haste, and on Locker of the Iron Solari, we see that you gain just 2 armor and magic resist added to your passive, but with this you're getting 15 ability power. Now for the mid lane mages, this is probably necessary to keep them relevant. On a support's income, they're not going to be able to buy quite a lot of the AP damage items, and they need the ability power to come from somewhere in order to still stay relevant on the bot lane. But also some enchanters, Soraka is an especially good example of this, have just fantastic AP scalings, and honestly I'd be quite surprised if we don't see this on those enchanters that have good AP scalings. Specifically, Soraka and Seraphine could be particularly good with this item. The final item that we're going to talk about is once again an item that you may be familiar with, and that's Shirelia's Battle Song. Of course, this is a little different to the current item that we have, which is Shirelia's Reverie, but it clearly is intended to fit the same kind of role. However, it's been given quite a few buffs because it now, like all of the other support items that we've talked about, costs 2,700 gold. Its base stats give you 350 health, 20 ability haste, 5% movement speed, and 50% base mana regen. And its active ability grants you and nearby allies 40% decaying movement speed for 4 seconds, just like the old Shirelia's. However, it now has an additional 40 to 60 magic damage for the next 3 attacks or abilities against champions, and this applies to both you and your allies once you use the active. I think this is going to fit a relatively niche role, unless its balancing is totally out of whack, but I think it's going to be quite important on certain support champions. It's not going to make you as tanky as Locker of the Iron Solari, so I'm not entirely expecting to see it on the full tank supports, such as Alistar or Shen, but for supports like Rakan, who are going to love being able to fly into the enemies with a high amount of movement speed and also a fair bit of damage, and they have the kind of ability to allow them to not have to be that tanky, then I think this is going to be just a fantastic item. Like I said though, I think it's really going to depend on balance. I think this item has the potential to get completely out of hand and just be seen on every tanky support, but also to be kind of useless and not be seen on anybody. It's really going to be up to Riot here to balance it to where they want to see it, but I'm quite excited to get some real playtime on this. I've used it a little bit on the PvE so far, but once it's out on the main game, I think we're going to be playing this quite a lot on stream, really seeing what champions gel with it. And I personally think that Rakan is going to be super fun. And with that, we're done for the support Mythic items. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to catch up with the videos on Mythic items for the other roles, hit subscribe because they'll be coming out in the next few days. And thank you very much for watching.